Alrighty. Okay, well, try this again. Up they both scuttled to a fresh place, but several of the spiders had now run to different points in the glade where they lived, and were busy spraying webs across the spaces between the tree stems. Placing the hobbit would be caught in a thick fence of them all around him. At least that was the spider's idea. Standing now in the middle, hunting and spinning insects, Bill plucked up his courage and began a new song. Lazy law and crazy club, no even lips to wind me. I am far more sweet than other meat, but still they cannot find me. You nutty little fly, you are fat and lazy. You cannot trap me, though you try. I am cobwebs crazy. With that he turned and found that the last space in between two tall trees had close with a web. But lucky, not a proper web, with only great strands on the thick spider rope, one hastily backwards and forwards from trunk to trunk. Out came his little sword. He slashed the threads to pieces and went off swinging, unseen. The spider saw the sword, but though I don't suppose I knew what it was. And at once, the whole lot of them came hurrying out to the hobbit, along the ground and the branches. Hey, legs waving, nippers and spinners snapping, eyes popping, full of love and rage. They followed him into the forest, till Bibble had gone as far as he dared. And quieter than a mouse, he stole back. And he had precious a little time. He knew before the spiders were disgusted and came out to the trees where Doses were hunting. And meanwhile, he had to rescue them. The worst part of the job was getting up to the long branch where the bundles were dangling. I don't suppose he would have managed it if his brother had not quickly left the rope hanging down with his help, though it stuck to his hand and hurt him. And scrambled up, only to meet the slow, had wicked fat body spider who had remained behind to guard the prisoners. I've been busy pinching them to see what's the juiciest to eat. I get thought I was starting to face on the other way, but Mr. Baggins was in a hurry, and before the spider knew what was happening, and felt his sting, and rode off the branch dead. Bibble's next job was to lose a dwarf. What was he to do? He got the train which hung him up, and let the dwarf would tumble thump to the ground and hook away below, niggling along. The branch, which made old wood roses dance and dangle like ripe fruit. He reached the first bundle. Keely, Keely, he thought. A tip of blue hood sticking out of the top. Most likely Feely, he thought. My tip of the long nose sticking out of the winding threads. He managed by leaning over to cut also the string and stone sticky threads. The bundle ran. Then sure enough with a kick and a struggle. Most of Feely emerged. And fact, Bibble actually laughed at the sight of jerking his stiff arms and legs, so he hands on the spider string under his armpits. Sounds like one of those funny toys, bobbling on the wire. Somehow or other, Feely was got on to the branch. Then he did his best to help the hobbit. Although he was feeling very sick and ill of a sprain of poison. And from pain most of the night and the next day, round and round, his only nose to breathe through. It took him ages to get the beastly stuff out of his eyes and eyebrows. With his beard, he had to cut most of it off. Well, between them, they started to haul up the first off to another and slash them free. None of them were better off than Feely, and some of them were worse. Some of them had hardly been able to breathe at all. Long noses are sometimes useful, you see, and some have been more poisoned. In this way, they rescued Keely, Bummer, Bummerfoot, Noddy Dolly, Bull Bummer, and so exhausted he was the fattest and being constantly pinched and pulled. And he just rolled off the branch and fell plop on to the ground. Fortunately, and leaves and lay there. But there were still 5 doses, and then the branch where the spider began to come back, more full of days than ever. Bibble immediately went to the end of the branch, raised the tree trunk, and kept back those that crawled up. He had taken off his mane when he had Skiffy got him to put it on again. So now they all began to splutter and hiss. "No, obviously you nasty little creature. We will eat you and leave you bones and skin hanging on the tree. Ugh, create. It's got the sting, has he? I will get him out the thing. I will hang him down, head downwards for a day or two." Well, this was going on. Those doses were working on the rest of the captives. And cutting at the threads with their knives. Soon all will be free. Although it was not clear what would happen after that. The spiders had caught them pretty easily the night before. But that had been unawares and dark. This time, it looked like being a horrible battle. Suddenly, Bibble noticed that some of the spiders had gathered around Elbow on the floor. And I tied him up again, and dragging him away. He gave a shout, and slashed at the spiders in front of him. They quickly gave way, and scrambled and fell down the tree right in the middle of those on the ground. His little sword was something new in the way it stings for them. how dared to thrill. The shell lit the light as he stabbed at them. Half a dozen were killed, for the rest drew off and left Bummer to bibble. Come down, he shouted to the voices in the branch. Don't stay up there and be eaten. For they saw the spiders swarming up all the neighboring trees, flying along the burrows, but the heads of the dozers. Down the doors scrambled or jumped or dropped, all 11 all in a heap, most of them very shakily and heeless on their legs. There they were at last, 12 of them, counting old Boma. Was being popped up on the inside of it. Cousin Boma fit. On his butt, Boma fur. And Bibble was dancing around him, waving his sting. And hundreds of angry spiders were goggling and them all around and above and the bat and above. It looked pretty hopeless. Then the battle began. Some of the doses had knives, and some had sticks. And all of them could get the stones. And Bibble had his ever dagger. Again and again the spiders were beaten off and many of them were killed. And they could not go on for long. Bibble was getting tired now. Only 4 of the Dorses were able to stand firmly, and soon they would all be overpowered by like lady flies. Already the spiders were making the weed webs all around them again. From tree to tree. And again, Bibble could think of no plan except to let the Dorses in on the secret of his ring. He was rather sorry about it, and it could not be helped. I am going to disappear, he said. As I'll draw the spiders off, but I can. And you must keep together and make an opposite direction. To the left, there was more or less the way towards the place where you last saw the spiders. It was difficult to get them to understand with what the dizzy heads and shouts and the hacking the sticks and the throwing the stones. But at last, Bibble felt he could lay no longer. The spiders were drawing their circle ever closer. He suddenly slipped on his ring, and to the greatest astonishment to the Dorses, he vanished. Young came the sound raising his love that the cup. Among the trees on the right. That upset the spiders greatly. He stopped advancing. Tom went off in direction of the noise of the cup made them so angry that they lost their wits. They brought in. I guess Bibble's plan better than the rest. Let it attack. The Dorses huddled together in a knot in the shower of stones, and 12 at the spiders on the left, and burst through the ring. Away behind them, now the shouting sitting sun lights up. Hoping desperately that Bibble and that been caught, and Dorses went on. Not fast enough though. They were sick and weary, and they could not go much better than hubble and wobble. So when they the spiders were close behind. Every now and then they have to turn and fight the creatures that are overtaking them. One day some spiders were in the trees above them, throwing down their long clean threads. Things were looking pretty bad again when suddenly Bibble reappeared and charged into the stomach spiders, unthreatening from the side. Go on, he shouted. We'll do the stinging. And he did. He darted backwards and forwards, lashing the spider webs, hacking at their legs and stabbing at their fat bodies as they came too near. The spiders swelled with rage and spoiled and pulverized and hissed their horrible curses. But they had become mortally afraid of Sting, and dared not come very near, that they had come back. So cursed as they would pray and move steadily away. It was a most horrible business, and seemed to take hours. But at last, just as Bibble felt he could not lift his hand for a single stroke more, the spider suddenly gave it up and followed them no more, but went back disappointed to the dark colony. The Dorses then noticed they had come to the edge of the ring where elf fires had been. Whether it was one of those they had seen the night before, they could not tell. But it seemed some good magic lingered in some spots the spiders did not like. At any rate, the light here was greener, on the boats less thick and threatening, and they had a chance to listen and draw breath. There they lay for some time, panting, puffing and panting. But very soon they began to ask questions. They had to have the whole energy business carefully explained, and the fighting of the ring interested them so much that for a while they forgot their own troubles. Bolin in particular assisted in having the Gollum story, reels and all, told all over again, with the ring in its proper place. But after a while, the light had to fail, and other questions were asked. Where were they? And where was their path? Where was there any food? And where were they going to do next? These questions they asked over and over again. And it was from Little Bibble they seemed to expect to get the answers. From which you can see that they changed their opinion of Mr. Baggins very much, and began to have a great respect for him, as Gandalf said they would. Indeed, they had really expected him to think of some wonderful plan for helping them, and were not merely grumbling. They knew only too well that they would soon all been dead if it had not been for the hobbit. And they thanked him many times. Some of them even got up and bowed right to the ground before him, although they fell over with effort and could not get on their legs again for some time. Winning the trip of the vanishing did not lessen their pain in the Bibble at all, for they saw that he had somewhat spells, luck, and the magic name, and all they were very useful for passions. In fact, they praised him so much that Bubble began to feel he was really something of a bold adventurer by himself after all. Although Though he would it felt bolder still, and there had been anything to eat. Well, there was nothing at all, and none of them were fit to go and look for anything, or to search for the lost path. The lost path. A little idea it would come into Bibble's tired head. He sat, he just sat, staring in front of him in the streets. And after a while, they all felt silent again. So the bell went. One at the others stopped talking and shut their eyes. Got them running, chuckling to himself. Go on! Well, I'm blessed. So that's how you sneak past me, is it? Now I know. The script got any along, did you, Mr. Baggins? Buttons all over the doorstep. Good old Bibble. Bibble. And he fell asleep. And was complete silence for a long time. All of a sudden, the door went open, and I ran at them. Who's fooling? He asked. That was a terrible shot. Of course, there was only 13 of them. Told those just in the hobbit. Where indeed was foreign. They wondered what evil fate had befallen him. Magic or darkness asserted they lay lost in the forest. There they dropped off one by one into uncomfortable sleep, with horrible dreams, and evening wore to black night. And there we must leave them for the present. Too sick and weary to send guards to take turns in watching. For him had been caught much faster than they had. You remember Bill fall they got locked into sleep as he stepped into a circle of light? The second time, then foreign was deafened, and as the lights went out, it felt like a stone enchanted. All the noise of the doors was lost in the night. The cries that the spiders caught them and bound them. On the sound about next day, a bath over him unheard. Then the elves had come to him, bound him, carried him away. The feasting people was out, of course. These were not wicked folk. The other folk is distrust in strangers. Although the magic was strong, even in those days they were weary. They differed from the high elves of the west, and were more dangerous and less wise. But most of them, together with their scattered relations, the hills and mountains, were descended from the ancient tribes that never went farther the west. There the light elves and deep elves and sea elves went and lived for ages, grew fairer and wiser and more learned, and then lifted their magic and their cunning craft, making beautiful and marvelous things. For some came back into the wild world the woods elves lingered in the twilight of earth, sun and moon, and looked past the stars. And they went in the great forest. They grew tall, and ends that were now lost. They drove most often by the edge of the woods, from whence they could escape from time to time, or to die and run. Over the open lands by moonlight, or starlight. After the commitment, it took even more. And after the commitment, it took even more. The gloaming and dusk. Still else they were and remain. And that is good people. In the great cave, some miles within the edge of Mirkwood, on its eastern side, there lived a Stein, its greatest king. Before his huge doors of a stone and river ran out of the heights, the forest, and floated on and out into the marshes feet of the high wooden lands. This great cave, was countless little ones, and went out at their heavy side, one far underground, many passages and wide walls. But it was lighter, more wholesome than any goblin dwelling. Neither dirty nor so dangerous. In fact, the subjects of the king mostly lived and hunted in open woods, and now houses or huts on the ground and in the branches. The beaches were their favorite cheese. The king's cave was his palace, as some place of his treasure, and the fortress of his people against their enemies. It was also the dungeon of his prisoners. So, to cave, a great foreign, not too gently, for they did not allow doors. And though he was the enemy, in ancient days they had wars with some of the Dorses, whom they accused of stealing their treasure. Well, it is only fair that the Dorses gave a different account, and said they only took what was their due, for the elf king had bargained with them to shape his raw gold and silver, and afterwards refused to give them their pay. As the elf king had no weakness, it was for treasure. Especially for silver and white gems. Although his hoard was rich, he was ever eager for more, since he had not yet as greatly his treasure as other elves of old. His people neither minced nor worked metals or jewels, nor did they bother much with trade or gentling the earth. This was all this was well known to every dwarf, although Forlin's family had nothing to do with the old quarrel I was spoken of. So quickly, Forlin was angry at their treatment of him when they took his spell off him and came to his sentence. Also, he was determined that no word of gold or jewels should be dragged out of him. The great looks sternly on him for end, and he was bluffed before him. Next to many questions. Before it could only say he was starving. Why did you and your folk 3 times try to attack my people, the main making? Asked the king. We did not attack them, I said Florian. We came to beg because we were starving. Will you first know what are they doing? I don't know. Let's suspect starving in the forest. What were you doing in the forest? Looking for food and drink because we were starving. But what brought you into the forest after all? At all? Asked the king angrily. Uh-oh. With that, Florian shut his mouth and would not say another word. Very well, said the king. Take it away and keep him safe till he feels inclined to tell the truth, even if he waits 100 years. And else will prompt thorns on him. Shut him in one animal's case with strong wooden doors and left him. They gave him food and drink, plenty of both. If not very fine for wood elves or not goblins. Won't easily help behave even to their most enemies, and they captured them. Dying spiders were the only living things they have no mercy upon. There in the king's dungeon, 4 in lay. And after he had gotten over his thankfulness for bread, meat, and water, he began to wonder what had become of this fortunate friends. It was not very long before he discovered what happened lost in the next chapter, and began another adventure in which the hobbit again showed the usefulness. So that is basically that's the Hobbit movie in 8 chapters. Next week we're looking at chapter 9, Braille's Out of Bound, and the second Hobbit movie. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.